Hi guys, black is here. How do you like my new sweatshirt? It's polo. Paid $140 for it off eBay. As soon as I saw it, I had to buy it. Why? I don't have enough color in my life. For some reason, people who make clothes, when they make fat people clothes, they like to make everything dark, dull colors. They don't like to make bright, vibrant color. Also, I'm gay, and gay people love colors. Anywho, I think it was a 1980 or 81, I think it was an 80 Toyota Corona liftback. Now a Corona came out before the Camry, right? And it looked sort of kind of like I don't know what year. There used to be a Mazda 626. Liftback. I don't really remember what it was. About 85, I don't really remember. But it looked sort of kind of like that. But if you Google 1980 Toyota Corona liftback, you'll see it. I actually saw one on a truck a few weeks ago. Clean car too. Wasn't very fast. It had the Toyota truck engine at the time, the 2.2, I think it was the 20R 4-cylinder carburetor. I want to say it had like 96 horsepower. But anyway, a friend of mine sold this car to me for $300. I don't remember how many miles was on it. But it was white outside with burgundy cloth interior. And it was fully, did it have a sunroof? No, I don't think it had a sunroof. If it did, I don't think it did. If it did, I don't remember. But anyway, the car had bad brakes. You could drive this car around the corner, come back, take the back tire off, and you could hold the rear drum in your hand. It would be cold. So I knew the back brakes wasn't working. Why the back brakes wasn't working, I don't know. I could fix drum brakes, but I didn't like to mess with them. It was just too complicated. But if I had to fix them, I could, but I didn't like to mess with them. Anywho, it didn't have a brake light. A lot of American cars, when the master cylinder's back, you get a brake light, normally. But this car wasn't like that. And also, the pedal sometimes would be soft on cars with bad master cylinder, but this car, the pedal was firm. It just only stopped on the front wheel. You could drive it in dry ground pretty well, but when it rained, you had to stop early. If somebody pulled out in front of you, you had to anticipate stuff like that, because if you didn't, you're going to run into them because you only had front brakes. All right, now, this is the reason why I drive so well. I've always driven good my whole damn life. But I grew up driving cars with bad brakes, bad steering, bad suspension. So when I drive a car with good brakes, good steering, good suspension, I'm like Michael Jordan on the basketball court. You can't touch me. But anyway, I went to Kmart for some reason, and I pulled into a parking spot. And when I put on the brakes went to the floor, and I ran smack ass into like a 77, 78, or 79 Cadillac DeVille. I mean, hit head on. I don't really think I hurt that car. I don't think I really hurt my car either. Well, I think I bent the bumper a little bit. It was a rubber bumper, whatever. What do you call it? Polyurethane or whatever. I don't remember. I don't think the car would hurt. Either car would hurt that bad. But anyway, I got out of the car. I looked around. I didn't see anybody. I got back into my car and I bagged out and I left. And I drove home with no brakes. Had no brakes. So you wonder, well, how did you drive home? I used the parking brake, or as they call it, the emergency brakes. Now, yes, you can drive with nothing but the emergency brakes. Well, on certain cars that have physical, when the parking brake is hooked directly to either the rear drums or the rear calipers, you can do that. But cars with like the parking brake is inside the drum. They're a little small. They call it brake shoes inside of a hat or something like that. Those won't last very long. But full size rear brakes, usually you can drive home with. But anyway, so I drove home using nothing but a parking brake. So at the time, I had stole a Toyota Supra. It was early 80s Toyota Supra, and I parked it in some woods. And I went into the woods and I took the master cylinder off because it looked like mine. I put it on and I had brakes again. But for some reason, that's when I found out that the master cylinder was bad. Well, actually, when I ran into the Cadillac, I realized the master cylinder bad because the master cylinder it was a 2-channel master cylinder. They passed this law, I don't know, in the 60s or something, late 60s, where cars had to have dual channel master cylinder, meaning that there had to be a front channel and a rear channel. So if one of the channels go out, you have the other one, and you won't do what I did. But see, if my master cylinder had been working both channels, when I lost the front brakes, I would have had rear brakes to stop me. But at the time, I didn't know the rear channel was bad. I didn't know what was wrong with the brakes. I didn't know. But I didn't think it was a bad master cylinder. But again, when I put the Supra master cylinder on there, I found out that's what it was. Because now when I hit the damn brakes, the car stopped a whole lot better. And now when you drive around the block and come back, the rear drums will be hot. But anyway, that's it I gotta say on that subject, I guess. Well, I was gonna talk about this, how young people don't know how to drive cars with bad brakes or bad engines or whatever. My mother had a 78 LTD station wagon that had, I didn't know at the time, but it had a bad accelerator pump. I think that's what it's called. Accelerator pump is when you step on the gas, it squirts fuel into the engine. On the top, used on the top of the carburetor, you'll see fuel shoot into the engine. Well, not on top, but in the top of the carburetor. You look down, you see a jet of fuel shoot in. That's an accelerator pump. It does that because when you first open the throttle, the jet can't keep up with fuel, so it squirts an extra drop of fuel in there so the engine won't stumble. Well, my mother's 78 station wagon, if you sitting still and you stepped on the gas, it will cut off because the accelerator pump was bad. But what you had to do was you had to step on the gas and kind of pump it a couple times when you pull off. Otherwise, it would cut off. But my mother was used to doing this, and everybody who drove the station wagon was used to doing this because we was used to it. But if somebody who didn't know what the hell they were doing couldn't drive the car because they stepped on the gas and it cut off. And why my father never put a carburetor on, I can't tell you. I can't tell you why. But I told this story once about my mother had a school bus and the choke messed up on the carburetor. And my father, being the broke ass he was, most old black men did this. Not just old, but most people did this in the old days. When the choke messed up, you either put a bolt in the carburetor or you rigged the carburetor up where the choke was wide open and you just flood the engine out before you crank it. Or better yet, we just knew how to keep the engine running, but my mother didn't. So I came out with this plan. She drove a school bus. So she didn't want to wake me up early in the morning to crank the bus up. My father, lazy ass, when he was sick, he still could have went outside and cranked the bus for her. He was just an asshole. But anyway, so I used to hear out there trying to crank the bus up. And I used to feel so bad for her. So I went outside and I would go crank it up for her every morning. And then I came up with a way, this was getting on my nerve, getting up out of bed early in the morning. Because, she left, 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And it was getting on my nerve. And I said, I got to figure out some way for her to be able to crank this bus up. So one day I go out there and I stomp the gas 5 times. And the purpose of this was to put a bunch of fuel inside the intake. Turn the ignition switch, crank the bus up, and don't do anything. Just let it crank up, and the bus would run flooded for, I don't know, a few seconds, and then it would clear out the extra fuel, and the bus would cut off. Well, I learned that if I pumped it 10 times, get in the morning, pump it 10 times, and then crank it up, it would run flooded for, I don't know, about 10 seconds. I never really counted it, but about 10 seconds it would run flooded. And after a while, when they clear out all the extra fuel, the bus would idle because the engine was warm enough to run, Now, she still couldn't drive it, but it would idle. So anyway, I told her, I take out one more and I tell her stomp the gas 10 times to the floor and just crank it up, let it run, and it'll idle. And it would idle every morning. And my father told her, "Dad, to do that, you're going to flood the engine out." And I'm like, that's the purpose of stomping on the gas 10 times, to flood the engine out so the engine would run long enough to heat itself up. It worked just fine. Every morning she went out there and did the same thing. They crank up and run crappy for, 10, 15 seconds, and then clear out, and it ran. But anyway, that's all I got to say on the subject. If you have any questions or comments, leave it. By the way, like this video. I've never liked telling people to like my videos, even though everybody say, like my videos, subscribe to my channel. I hate telling people to do that. I hate it, but my money is down to $175. That's what I got this month from YouTube, $175. I haven't gotten $175 in probably 6 years. So am I going to stop making videos? Probably not. I'm too stupid to quit. Then I got nothing else better to do. And I got nothing else better to do. I'm too stupid to give up. Dre, y'all have a good day.